The fate of World War II didn't just hang on firepower, tanks, or fighter planes. Sometimes it hung on a briefcase, filled with lies. In 1943, Adolf Hitler and the German High Command believed they had a tight grip on European defenses. They expected the Allies to invade mainland Europe, but where and when? Every general knew it was coming, but no one knew the exact moment. The Allies realized something terrifying. If the Germans guessed right, the invasion would fail. Thousands would die before ever reaching shore. So instead of just preparing an army, they prepared a lie. A brilliant, elaborate lie that involved fake armies, false intelligence, dummy tanks, and even a dead body planted with forged documents. The operation would become one of the greatest acts of wartime deception in history, and it worked so well that Hitler moved entire divisions to defend a battlefield that didn't exist. This is the story of how the Allies tricked the most feared dictator on earth, with nothing more than illusion, creativity, and nerves of steel. It began with Operation Bodyguard, the code name for a massive deception campaign designed to hide the real plans for D-Day. The objective? Convince Hitler that the invasion of Europe would come anywhere except Normandy. Under that umbrella came several sub-operations. One of the most famous, Operation Fortitude. A campaign to convince Hitler that the main invasion force would land in Pas-de-Calais, the shortest distance from England across the Channel. It made sense geographically, but that's exactly why the Allies had to make it seem too obvious to ignore. So they got to work creating an army that didn't exist. They called it the 1st U.S. Army Group, and it was supposedly led by the legendary General George S. Patton. Fake radio chatter was broadcast day and night. Inflatable tanks and wooden planes were scattered across the countryside. Entire military bases were built just to be seen by German reconnaissance aircraft. The Allies knew the Germans had a network of spies in Britain, so instead of arresting them, they turned many into double agents, feeding them just enough real information to seem credible, but always steering them toward the false invasion plan. And then came Operation Mincemeat, perhaps the boldest deception of all. The British took the corpse of a homeless man, dressed him in the uniform of a Royal Marine, and placed fake top-secret documents in a briefcase chained to his wrist. These documents claimed the Allies would invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. They released the body off the coast of Spain, knowing it would reach German hands. Hitler believed it. He shifted his troops to southern Europe, and when the Allies invaded Sicily in July 1943, they faced far less resistance than expected. The plan had worked perfectly, but this was just the beginning, because the most important deception was yet to come. The one that would make D-Day possible. With the success of Operation Mincemeat behind them, the Allies set their sights on the ultimate goal, convincing Hitler that Normandy was a diversion, not the main invasion. The Operation Fortitude South. Its mission to make the German High Command believe that the real invasion would come at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. If the Germans kept their strongest troops stationed there, the beaches of Normandy, where the actual invasion would happen, could be breached with fewer casualties. To do this, the Allies constructed an entirely fake army. They named it the 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG, and appointed none other than General George S. Patton as its commander. Patton was a loud, brash, brilliant strategist, exactly the kind of general the Germans feared most. They believed he would be the one to lead any major assault, so they watched his every move. And the Allies made sure he was very visible. Patton was photographed visiting fake camps. Radio transmissions were generated constantly, broadcasting fictional logistics, orders, and movements. German intelligence picked up every signal. Meanwhile, fields in Kent were filled with inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, and dummy landing crafts made from canvas and plywood. From the sky, they looked real. And that was the point. The British used double agents like Juan Pujol Garcia, codenamed Garbo, to feed the Nazis false intelligence. Garbo was so trusted by the Germans that they awarded him the Iron Cross, without realizing he was working for the Allies the entire time. Garbo reported detailed updates about the 1st U.S. Army Group's preparations, confirming everything the Germans saw on their own reconnaissance flights. It was the perfect illusion, verified by trusted spies, confirmed by visible proof, backed up by radio chatter, and Hitler bought it. As D-Day approached, German forces waited anxiously for the real invasion. Even after the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, Hitler refused to move his elite panzer divisions from Pas-de-Calais. He was convinced it was all a distraction. For 7 weeks, German forces sat idle while Allied troops pushed deeper into France. Hitler delayed reinforcement after reinforcement, expecting a second, larger invasion at Calais. It never came. By the time he realized the truth, it was too late. The Allies had broken through the Normandy beaches, secured their foothold, and begun the liberation of Western Europe. Operation Fortitude didn't fire a single bullet, but it may have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and it exposed a terrifying truth. Sometimes, in war, a lie is deadlier than a bomb. As Allied forces stormed across the beaches of Normandy, chaos gripped the German high command. Field commanders begged for reinforcements. They pleaded for permission to move panzer divisions stationed near Calais. But Hitler was convinced the real attack is still coming. He was certain the Normandy landings were a distraction. After all, his top intelligence officers and his most trusted spies told him so. But those spies, they were working for the Allies. Operation Fortitude wasn't just a clever ruse. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Every element had been calculated to manipulate one man's thinking, Adolf Hitler. His obsession with being outsmarted, his distrust of logic, and his tendency to overthink were turned against him. The deception ran deep. Agents like Garbo, also known as Juan Pujol Garcia, didn't just deliver a single false report, they created entire fictional spy networks. Garbo claimed to have 27 sub-agents feeding him information from across Britain. He wrote fake letters, fabricated personalities, even described their hobbies and political opinions. The Germans bought it all. One message Garbo sent after the D-Day landings told the Germans that a larger invasion was still coming to Calais. Hitler, trusting his spy, delayed releasing reinforcements for over a month. This delay was crucial. Had Hitler moved his elite divisions to Normandy in those early days, the entire invasion could have collapsed. The beaches could have become slaughterhouses. The liberation of France might have failed. But deception bought the Allies time, and time won the war. What made Operation Fortitude so effective wasn't just the lies, it was how well they matched what Hitler already believed. He assumed the Allies would attack where the channel was narrowest, Pas de Calais. Fortitude confirmed that assumption. He believed Patton was the Allies' top general. Fortitude put him at the head of the fake army. He thought British intelligence was leaky. Fortitude gave him exactly the leaks he was looking for. They didn't just trick him, they led him. And Hitler followed. By late July 1944, the truth began to sink in. The Second Front wasn't coming. The forces at Normandy weren't a diversion. They were the real thing. But by then, it was too late. The Allies had broken out of the beachhead, launched Operation Cobra, and were driving through France. German morale crumbled, cities fell, the illusion was finally shattered. But the damage had already been done. Operation Fortitude had achieved the impossible. It fooled the most paranoid man in Europe. It turned spies into storytellers, lies into strategies, and shadows into weapons. And perhaps most importantly, it proved that wars are not won by force alone. They're won in the mind. When historians look back on World War II, they often focus on the tanks, the battles, the blood-soaked maps of Europe shifting with every offensive. But in the shadows, beyond the gunfire and trenches, there was another battlefield. A battlefield of minds, lies, and illusion. Operation Fortitude and the web of deception surrounding D-Day remain one of the most brilliant psychological victories in military history. It didn't involve a single direct confrontation. No armies clashed, no bombs fell. Yet its outcome changed the course of the war, because it turned Hitler's greatest strength, his obsession with control, into his fatal flaw. He refused to believe the truth, even when it stood before him. He trusted forgeries over facts, shadows over substance, and the Allies, knowing his mind better than anyone, played him like a grandmaster plays chess. What made it all possible? Not just the spies, not just the fake tanks and radios, but coordination. Dozens of intelligence agencies, officers, actors, and analysts worked together across continents. They choreographed every movement, every fake signal, every forged report. One false step, and the entire illusion could have crumbled. But it didn't, because they understood the stakes. Had Hitler guessed correctly, the D-Day landings might have been annihilated. The war could have dragged on for years. Millions more lives could have been lost. Instead, a lie bought the Allies a beachhead, and from that beachhead, they liberated a continent. After the war, when German officers were interrogated, many confessed they had believed in the Calais invasion, until it was far too late. Some even referred to the non-existent 1st U.S. Army Group as a real and present threat, proof of how deeply the deception had worked, and what of the heroes behind it. Most never fired a shot. Some worked in basement offices, others typed scripts, crafted dummy documents, or designed inflatable vehicles. And yet, they may have been as critical to victory as any soldier on the front lines. Today, the story of how the Allies tricked Hitler is more than just a clever tale. It's a reminder of the power of strategy, patience and human ingenuity, because in war, strength matters. But so does the story you tell your enemy, and sometimes the most dangerous weapon of all is belief. If this story fascinated you, shocked you, or changed how you think about war, give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of hidden history, military genius, and psychological warfare. Drop a comment below. What do you think was the most clever part of this operation? Share this video with someone who believes strategy is stronger than steel, because sometimes a lie can win a war.